Welcome to Sitting Meditation Tips and Tricks Part 2. In the previous video we talked about various things that you can purchase to aid in your sitting positions, and in this video we're going to be focused on actual positions and postures. So before I begin, I just want to do a little bit of a disclaimer that these positions are going to vary from person to person on comfort level. So it depends on how tight your hips are, what your body type is, various different things, okay? So the whole point here is I want to provide you with all the different things that I know about so you can kind of experiment and see which one feels right for you until you find the one that is just, Goldilocks. Alright, so the first one that I want to mention is called Burmese, and that's the one I'm currently sitting in the moment. I'll go ahead and demonstrate how I get into this position. Notice that the pelvis comes kind of into a V formation right before my legs begin. And I'm going to bring the heel of one foot, and it really doesn't matter which one, and again experiment with which one feels good for you. And I'm going to bring the heel of one foot, in this case I'm going to bring my left foot into the tip of where that V ends, okay? And I'm going to say that the top of my foot isn't fully on the mat, and it's not the side of my foot that's on the mat either. It's kind of like somewhere in between, okay? The other foot, I'm going to bring the heel to rest very gently on top of the ankle of the other foot, and in this case the top of the foot does fully touch the top of the mat. My shins are on the meditation cushion. My knees are slightly above the meditation mat, but because I'm in this nice triangular shape where my butt is touching the cushion and my calf muscles and my shins and my ankles, my feet are solid on the ground, I'm forming a nice triangular base. And that's the ideal of almost all of these positions. So we want to try to form like a pyramid or a tripod, whichever one you like. The idea is that these are like some of the most stable conformations in nature, and we want to mimic the stability that can come from that posture, okay? So if Burmese isn't your thing, you might want to try the half lotus position. Half lotus is very similar, and you can just take the top of the foot that's in the front, you leave the foot that's tucked in there, and you bring it on top of the thigh of the other leg. And you'll notice that my hips are very tight, and this position doesn't really work well for me. My knee isn't resting on the ground. I only have like two legs of the tripod going on right now. And if I try to force myself to get this knee on the ground, you'll notice that it lifts up my butt. So my body is just naturally tight that way. I can try to force my butt down, and really my practice isn't about forcing anything. It's just allowing what is to be. So for me in this case, maybe if I did more yoga, my hips wouldn't be so tight, and I would be able to do this position. But for right now, in this moment, that's just not the case. So I embrace with what is, and this just isn't one I'm going to practice with in the moment. I have experimented a little bit, and I found that, and I've looked around, and actually there's a name for it. People call it a quarter lotus position. When you put the foot into the little crease between your thigh and your calf muscle. This actually isn't so bad for me. I can sit relatively comfortably this way with my foot in that crease. My leg and my knee are on the ground, and I can sit like this for quite some time actually. So you can try the quarter lotus position. I don't know if that's a full, major position that's really well known, but it's something worth trying out. The full lotus position is definitely one of the most well-known positions. It's probably what you might have imagined when you think of somebody who's doing sitting meditation before you ever were exposed to meditation. It's what happens when you have, the top of one foot on the leg, on the opposite leg, and you take the other foot and you put the top of that foot on top of this thigh. So then you basically have your feet resting on the legs of the opposite foot, your feet resting on the opposite leg, essentially, the thigh of the opposite leg. So I can't, I'm not even going to try this one. It's like twisting my body into a pretzel, and it would break. It wouldn't work. So it looks a little bit like this. I'm sure if you are flexible enough, this may be something you can try. And if it works well for you, my hat is off to you, because I think this is a beautiful position. It looks really stable with the knees touching the ground and the butt on the cushion, forming that tripod. I think that's ideal if you can get to that position. If you can't, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that, maybe your body type or the tightness of your muscles doesn't allow it, and that's okay. The Ziza and Japanese position or the Japanese style are two ways of calling the same thing. It's when you basically tuck your legs back behind you. In my experience, I found that whenever I do this, I need something a little taller than just the normal cushion that I'm currently sitting on. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate how I do this with just one cushion. Okay, I'll bring my legs out. My cushion that I'm sitting on that is normally flat, I turn on end, and that allows me to have a little extra height. And again, I'm sitting on the front edge of the cushion. I then take one leg and I tuck it back so that the top of my foot is resting on top of the mat, and then I bring the other leg and I tuck that one back so that it is also touching the top of the foot to the top of the mat. I experiment with bringing my knees together and spreading them out, and I find one that works really well for me. And then, again, I can sit very comfortably like this for quite some time. So these tend to be the two positions that I use the most, Burmese and the Japanese style. You'll notice I wrote over here, a tall cushion may be something worth having, because you can always put that on the side and sit on that very comfortably in a normal Burmese position, and the tall cushion gives you that extra height that you might need if you want to switch to the Ziza or Japanese style. Also, people purchase a bench, which I didn't mention in part 1 video, but there's a bench that you can purchase. It looks like this, and it has legs that basically fold down. So it forms like a table. And you sit on this surface, basically it's something like this. You sit basically right here, where that little black oval is, and then your knees and your legs will get tucked back into the space between the two legs of the table. So that's a wooden bench that you can purchase, and maybe you want to try that out before you purchase it. Or if you can purchase it and return it, and if it doesn't work, then there you go. You can probably make one of those as well, but yeah, anyway, so it's just something to put out there. It's essentially the same as Ziza Japanese position, except for you're using a bench. Alright, so the last thing that I'll mention is not using a bench or a mat or a cushion. You're using something like a chair. It could be a couch, it could be a log, it could be a stone, but you're going to be sitting on it like you would sitting on a chair. And instead of sitting on the backrest, like normally you would sit on a chair, like the stick figure is, sit on the very front edge of the chair if you can. That will allow for your pelvis to tilt a little forward, allowing your spine to come into a natural, comfortable alignment where the vertebrae stack neatly one upon another, supporting the entire body, head and neck, without that much effort. And that allows you to kind of adjust your posture a little bit until you move forward and back, and then you go, okay, perfect, right there. I can breathe nice and full and comfortable without restriction, and I can sit without my focal point drifting to pain or discomfort in my body. I can focus on my breath, I can focus on whatever my focal point becomes in my sitting practice. So these, if practiced well and you can experiment and find one that works well for you, will work beautifully. You just need to find, again, that sweet spot, that Goldilocks position that is just exactly what you have meant for you. Alright, so those are the only positions I know about. If you know of any other positions that I don't, please leave those in the comments section, because I'd be happy to learn from whatever your experience has been. And if you're struggling with this and you just need a little bit of advice or help, I'm really happy to help out. So please leave me any questions you might have in the comments section. Also, don't forget to follow, like, or subscribe. That way we can continue to maintain contact and practicing together. And until next time, I really wish you well on experimenting with these positions and enjoying your sitting meditation.